So again, that's just a testament to this guy's confidence. But we gotta keep it rolling.
Yeah. We gotta get into you know your approach to shooting, right? Like you literally taught yourself essentially. So I want to know, you know, what were the steps that you had to take to improve your shooting, and then, you know, who did you study the most growing up? Like, who was your guy, or who were your guys that you were trying to emulate as a shooter?
Okay, good question. So, for how I learned how to shoot was, you know, everything was just raw and uncut and trial and error, just a lot of just reps. But the first thing, you know, if you want to be a good shooter, my advice is shoot outside. Why? Because you have so many factors. You have the wind. You have, you know, if it's rain or snow, like there's so many factors where when I used to shoot the rock, I know if the wind was fading to the east, I would shoot a little bit to the west, so that way the ball would veer into the basket. So little stuff like that. And Michael Jordan actually was one of my founding points because
Perfect
of how
form, yeah.
he just had perfect, just with his shooting hand and his guide hand. It was like, okay, he's where he is being a student of the game. Why is he shooting this way? So it would be like, you know, at 12, 13 years old, I don't have the capabilities to shoot above my head like that, so I would start at a lower set point. What changed my progression, and I talked about this, but I ended up talking one time, but I was at the community center and was playing pickup with older guys, and this one dude was like, "Yeah, man, you're good." I can't even think of his name. I can't think of his face. I just remember him saying, "If you since you're getting older, or you might be a smaller guard, you got to raise your shot." So that's when I started at 13. Once I started to get my strength,
I remember that.
I would start to raise my shot, and everything would be unorthodox. But over time, I kept building my reps. But I think the main thing is I'm a wide guy. So it's like to this day, I shoot a basketball, and I ask myself, why did it go in? What are the things, like my stance? What, like, how do I look at the rim correctly? And so I'm a very, growing up with you guys, I'm a very chill, joking, just individual. Like, I don't really say much. But, you know, one thing about me, I like to say I'm a very deep thinker. Like, I analyze a lot of stuff. I process things. You know, with my background, I tell kids, I'm like, how many ears do you have? They'd be like, 2. How many mouths do you have? Just 1. So what does that mean? It means you should talk less and listen more, right?
That's a bar.
So,
that's adults. That's everybody.
Yeah. And so when it comes to certain things,
that you need to listen more to.
So
shout out to Nip, man.
I'm an overanalyzer when it comes to just specifics and mechanics. So Jordan started it, but then over time you see guys like, you know, I grew up in the 90s, so you see guys like Chris Mullins and, you know, like Larry Bird, and, you know, nowadays you got Steph Curry and Damian Lillard and, you know, Carmelo Anthony. That was my guy growing up. So it's just like you see, like, these guys, there's certain commonalities that these guys do when it comes to shooting the basketball. And over time, it made me kind of study, and I think that's how I kind of came up with the whole concept with, you know, the basketball sniper shooting method. I like to say the basketball sniper shooting method. You know, obviously being a teacher, just want to send my condolences to, you know, the people affected in Uvalde.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't want to shed light on that. So when it comes to my concept, I don't want to be strictly sniper. I like to say basketball because you understand.
Yeah,
it's
different.
It's different,
especially
than
nowadays.
all the stuff that's going on. So you got to be, you know,
sensitive to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have another question.
So
go ahead.
Sniper method? Can you tell the people what the acronym?
Yeah. So basically, the basketball sniper shooting method is a system that teaches basketball players how to shoot from head to toe. You know, I grew up The only way I learned how to shoot outside just figuring it out, my coach used to say, use the BEEF method. I'm like, BEEF, what is that? So BEEF stands for, the acronym stands for balance, eyes, elbow, follow through. So yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but I feel like those terms are very generic.
Right.
Makes sense? And so it's like, okay, what type of balance? Or like eyes, like what do you mean? You know, yeah, follow through is cool, but how should you, line your form with the rim? So how the concept was created was actually during COVID. I was, because
Had
of
more
the
time on your
pandemic,
hands.
had more time on my hands, and always wanted to do something to impact the game of basketball. And so my initial goal is I wanted to play overseas. I actually wasn't thinking about the NBA. I just wanted to be like, if I can just find a way to hoop overseas and just make a living, I'm cool. But unfortunately that didn't happen, so it's like, what can I do to at least add an imprint to the game? And then it came to, okay, I'm a shooter. And then I've heard people be like, oh, he's a sniper. So, with my just creative mind and, being a teacher, working in the elementary school realm, I like to keep things very simple. So that's when I thought about the term sniper, and I was like, okay, I like that. I was like, so since BEEF was kind of an acronym, why don't I use this word sniper as an acronym, and let me see if I can just find words to break down just shooting from head to toe. So for the sake of time, so the S stands for stance. So, studying guys of how they line their body with the basketball, they have a slanted stance and then a straight stance, pretty much, most of the time.
Right.
N stands for navigation. So that's how do you actually see the rim? People don't understand. There's only 5 spots on the floor when you're looking at the basketball. You have the corners on the right and left. You have the wings and then the center. That's it. But in saying that, there's a way to look at the rim and line your stance and your shooting and your follow through with that. So that's where the N comes from. I stood for instilling your base. So how to use your legs when you're shooting. Most guys, when they're shooting, they're either short to mid shooting jump shot. So like guys like Steve Kerr or Steph Curry, he doesn't really jump high when he shoots. But you have a high jump shooter. So guys like, I grew up in the 90s, so like Ray Allen, that dude.
Allen Houston,
Glenn Rice. Those guys, when they shot the ball, they literally looked like they were just jumping out the gym. And so that's where the I comes in. The P stands for possession, how to properly hold the basketball. Most kids, they got their right hand on like the side of the ball instead of under. And then their guide hand is not in the proper position. So it teaches you how to really properly hold the basketball. E stands for eye. So how you're shooting, now you have possession, how should your shooting hand and guide hand line up with the rim? And so the E and the N, navigation, come together, and that's where you're looking at, okay, this is basic physics. If your arm is if you're following through, it's going to the right, chances are it's going to go right.
Right.
The purpose of your shooting hands is to make sure you have that consistent elbow jump shot, and the guide hand, they work harmoniously to where you have to make sure your shot line is consistent. So that's where that happens. And then R is release. That's the last part. It's cool. It's funny how it worked out, since R is the last letter in the word, and that's the last thing you do with the basketball. So release is how to really understand how to use that rainbow-like arc or U-shaped arc to where once you get everything in alignment, you should be a consistent jump shooter. And what's cool about the whole method is, and the reason why I like it so much is because most guys that when they're shooting the basketball, they we play basketball where they get in shooting slumps. So this is not only am I teaching it, I just live by this day by day. So if I'm in the gym and I'm missing shots, it makes me go through a checklist of like, okay, have I done my stance? Am I looking at the rim properly? Am I using my base, my legs? Is my guide hand, my shooting hand off? So it allows you to get out of that slump and increase your shooting percentage. So there was a lot of thought behind it, and that's kind of the premise behind how it got created. So
What you want? I'm making moves, punching in. I'm on it too. I'm in the gym. I'm in the stew. It's hunting season. Where's the food? We push each other day